Welcome to the Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, you can catch any of our other 5 live shows throughout the week. If you happen to miss them, you can go back to watch them or listen to them at your own leisure. So make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. And speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. One more again, as you young folks would say. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to find Sports Zone Chicago today. And also, you want to catch the podcast version of Second City Sports, you could do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in your search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR on Anchor. That's War on Anchor. And you can follow War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions on our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll in or do something stupid, I'm giving Lakeena full boot for a boat to give you fools to bill and be boot.
Goodbye.
And don't forget, we have a big announcement coming on for our show today. It's going to change the way we do the show, and it's going to change the way that Sports Chicago heads in the direction as far as the future is concerned. What is that you're talking about, Sid? We'll let you know coming up. Trust me, it's going to be big, big, big.
Yes, we are. So make sure you guys tune in to that. For that, I mean.
Yes. All right, Lakeena, let's kick off this Friday edition of Second City Sports by discussing the NBA draft. Let's start home with our Chicago Bulls with their 18th pick in the first round. The Chicago Bulls selected point guard Mr. Dalen Terry, 6'7", 195-pounder point guard out of the University of Arizona. Looking up his stats last night, Lakeena, and checking out some of his film, he struggles to shoot from the three-point range, but he's a great passer. He's a great shooter as far as the 2-point is concerned. He shot 54% from 2-point range. He's a very good rebounder as well. I know some people wanted to compare him to a young Scottie Pippen or a young Jimmy Butler. He's, as I mentioned before, he's not the world's greatest shooter. He said in his presser last night to the Chicago media that he's going to work on that during this offseason. Some people are speculating that he could be part of a package, which we'll get to later. But Lakeena, I don't remember us. If we did, you could correct me. But I know I didn't mention Mr. Dalen Terry's name on our show on Monday. Remember, E.J. Liddell was the most popular pick among Bulls experts and fans. Of course, E.J. Liddell went later to the New Orleans Pelicans. But Mr. Dalen Terry, I know the Portland Trail Blazers were looking at him hard, but GM Mark Eversley and Arturas Corner Show saw something else in this special in this young man.
Yeah, there was also a thing with Taryn East. Those were some of the later mock drafts. That's why they call them mock drafts, because sometimes sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not. Now, in Dalen Terry's case, if you saw him at Arizona, he was all Pac-12 defense, so he can play defense. He was honorable mention all conference. So, this guy can play. Now, yes, he doesn't shoot the ball very well. He's only 19, so he can actually develop that as he goes. And look, he's 6'7". He could, sort of shoot from the paint. He, can actually shoot on the in the inside if you need him to. So he's definitely one of those guys where he definitely fits the Bulls. If I'm sure Billy Donovan's going to use him right away. Now, again, as far as, look, I think this was a solid pick for them. Look, he, 15 points, 8 rebounds, almost 9 assists at Arizona. So, he's sort of one of those guys where he kind of did it all for that, Arizona team. They were consistently the top, one of the top teams in the country last year, which I don't think a lot of people thought that they would be. But again, I think this is a good pick for the Bulls, and I feel like sort of this is a solid, pick for AK and Eversley. I know some people were disappointed. We'll get to that in a second.
Mhm.
That, well, is he going to be used as a bigger package? Maybe. I mean, it's sort of one of those things where you just don't know. And again, we'll get to all that in a minute. But I think this was a good pick for the Bulls. I know, look, Liddell and Easton. I think some other guys were thought to be maybe perhaps going to the Bulls. But again, I think they got the guy that they got their guy. And again, we'll see what happens. I mean, look, Summer League's gonna be coming up in a couple of weeks, and we'll see how he does there. This is definitely gonna be where he's gonna want to improve that shooting that he said he wants to do. And I love his tweets. He actually said that, look, I mean, if I go to the Bulls, I mean, that'd be pretty cool, in the list of guards. So I guess he was kind of foreshadowing what was coming up. But I think this is a good pick for the Bulls. And I think, look, the guy, look, you never have too many guards, right? So I think this is a nice pick for them.
Here's the thing. I know we were led to believe that this new Bulls brass are making all these moves to win now. And we said throughout this this part of the offseason, since the playoffs ended for the Bulls losing to Milwaukee, that this Bulls team was ready to take that next step in terms of marching their way towards the championship. Are they there yet? No, they just made the playoffs for the first time this past season. But we said that this team needs shooters, perhaps two shooters, and also you need a defender to protect the interior. And I know some people had the perimeter defender on a third on the list of needs for the Chicago Bulls. Now they did address that, but I think some fans are disappointed because, like I said, EJ Liddell was on the list for many Bulls fans, and I know that some of the other players, I said Jalen Duran, who got picked up earlier in the draft. We'll get to the rest of the board in a couple of minutes, but EJ Liddell was many favorites, as I said before. But I see why many Bulls fans are disappointed. We saw the deficiencies that they had last year, especially on defense within the interior. But I get why management did this. I'm not going to say this is a bad pick because we don't know, Lakeena, like you said. Terry is going to play in the summer league. He'll get his feet wet there, and of course, ultimately, we're going to see him play coming this fall. But I got what the new GM and AK did. I'm in wait and see mode. I know some people want to do the hot take thing and to say, "Oh, it's a bad pick already." No, I'm not going there just yet. We haven't seen him play summer league yet. So for those that you could be disappointed, but to be passive aggressive and say this is a bad pick, I'm not gonna fall for that foolishness. I'm not.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, I don't know what Bulls fans were thinking. I mean, this is why AK can't actually do what they do, and then this is why you guys are not doing what you're doing. So it's not the so it's sort of one of those things where it is definitely like, I'm wondering, what was the okay, yeah, I know some people wanted them to trade the pick. There were some rumors they were going to trade up and down. The 18th pick, I guess they couldn't find any takers. So, it's just sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, okay, let's see what he does. Look, I know some of you Bulls fans probably didn't watch Arizona basketball, but I'm like, he's a good player. Like I said, he'll be the first to tell you that. Look, he said it was something he needs to work on his shooting and such. So we'll see what happens here. But oh, what are we doing? Hello, what are you
doing? Sean did the
oh well. I guess he didn't mean to do it. So yeah, our boss was like, wait a minute, does he have thoughts on the Dalen Terry pick? But I guess he didn't want to like.
Wait a minute, young lady.
Like, oh no. But yeah, I mean, look, we'll see what he does. In summer league, we'll see how he looks. If you've seen tape of him, look, he's a good player. He said himself that he needs to work on his outside shooting, and that's always been the Bulls' sort of issue. So yeah, I think, look, this is a good pick for the Bulls. Look, will he contribute right away? Yeah, but again, we'll just have to see what happens.
And also, too, what I like about him reading the scouting report, he has a 7-inch wingspan, so he can get out. He can get out in the passing lane and steal the ball. And also, as we all know, in the game of basketball, when your offense isn't going strong, what gets you back in the game? Defense. So he's very aggressive defensively with that wingspan. That's what you like in a young player. Hopefully, he will get to work on that. Like I said, his offensive game will come along slowly, but is really what keeps you on the floor, Lakeena, you know as well as I do, is defense. And even in this era of basketball, you still got to stop somebody. And with that wingspan that he has, as long as he keeps that skill set up, it's going to take him a long way. He's going to last in this league for a long time.
Yeah, he will. And so, again, he's only 19. Give him some time to develop. He developed that 3-point shot. He can
Mm-hmm.
look. He might have a growth spurt. Who knows? I mean, he's 6'7", so he may shoot up another couple of inches. So we just don't know. I mean, look, we can see this might be Patrick Williams, a little slightly, more, leaner Patrick Williams. We'll have to wait and see. But give the guy a chance. Let's talk about the rest of the NBA draft. So what kind of surprises that you have? I mean, were there any kind of picks that sort of surprised you, or people not getting picked that surprised you?
Jabari Smith out of Auburn, he went number 3 to the Houston Rockets. I know they traded Christian Wood to the Dallas Mavericks a couple weeks ago, so I guess that move set up for the Rockets to pick up Mr. Smith. You talked about it last year, Lakeena, during the college basketball season. One of the reasons why Auburn was number 1 for those few weeks was because of Jabari Smith. We all know that he could patrol the paint, especially being a power forward, but he could put the ball in the bucket as well. And that's something that the Houston Rockets need. I think he's going to serve well for them. But the pick before and Chet Holmgren, I think most people had this correctly from Gonzaga. He went to OKC at number 2. Give GM Stan Presti credit. It's going to be at least a couple more years before Oklahoma City becomes serious playoff contenders again, but they're trying to build something nice over there. So I like what Oklahoma City did. Jaden Ivey, the point guard out of Purdue, the Pistons did real well with this pick, picking him at number 5. I think Detroit is trying to build something. They still a couple years away from being serious playoff contenders, so I like that. But your guy, Keegan Murray, the pick 4 at number 4 from Iowa, he went to Sacramento. I think that's a good pick, Lakeena, but we've been teasing Sacramento for a long time. What the hell are they doing?
Well, this might be the one day where they might have right. So it's going to be very interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll say, yeah. Mike Brown's over there now, so we'll see what he does and such. I mean, this is a guy that was Big Ten Player of the Year, and has all the credentials and such. So I think that was a nice pick by Sacramento. Benedict Mathurin, from who is Dalen Terry's former teammate over at Arizona, he ended up going to the Pacers. And look, I'm kind of interested in what Rick Carlisle is going to do there. I know they're basically sort of starting from scratch. So I'm wondering, this is sort of interesting to me that's sort of, that pick kind of made me go, And let's see, I think there were a few others that kind of sort of like me, sort of like it. Dyson Daniels ended up going to the Pelicans. The Pelicans had a really nice draft too. They had a lot of picks that they used. Johnny Davis, could he be a Bradley Beal replacement, perhaps? And I know Mark Williams from Duke. I know that was another player that the Bulls fans were very high on. He ended up going to Charlotte. Charlotte had a nice draft as well. AJ Griffin, of course, adding in over at Houston. Let's see. Ty Washington, fell a little bit. We ended up going to Memphis and Houston too. So they got traded to Houston, of course. So Houston, like I said, Houston had a really nice draft too with all their picks and sort of their kind of their moves and whatnot. So. And look, EJ Liddell, for those you were wondering, he ended up going to the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I guess sort of look, I mean, it's more the draft's always interesting because they had a nice little moment where they had all the prospects walk with their parents and their family members as they were walking out. So that was pretty cool to see, and I think all drafts to do that. So I think that's sort of one of those things where I think maybe that could be a new draft tradition that other drafts are going to be doing. I think that's what they should do. But I think really the main thing for me is some of the guys that didn't get drafted. Kofi Coburn didn't, went undrafted. Johnny Juzang from UC.
Let me stop with them.
What? Well,
Kofi Coburn being picked up by the Bulls.
Well, no, he ended up going to Utah, so that's I'm sure he'll be doing their summer league there. Johnny Juzang, I believe he also went to Utah. I have to look that up, but he also ended up going to Utah. Luke Williamson, of course, a former star for Loyola. I'm trying to figure out where did he ended up going. I think he ended up going to the Clippers. And Sharif O'Neal, Shaq's son ended up going to the Lakers, and so has Scottie Pippen Jr. He ended up going to the Lakers
I saw that.
after not being drafted. So I think that really really sort of the main story also is that who didn't get drafted, and I think they need to I think there needs to be a rule put in place where have guys, if guys don't get undrafted, give them a chance to go back to school. If not, then they can do their two-way deals and play summer league and such. So that way it'd be beneficial to everybody, not just the league, but also to the college hoops. I mean, I know Dalen Terry sort of said in his interviews that, well, I didn't develop my skills to go to college and play college hoops. I mean, I appreciate his honesty, but even still, you want to have that option, of course. So, Sharif and some of his comments, of course, he got in his argument with his dad, Shaq, and like maybe he shouldn't, go to, maybe he should go back to school because he's on track to, graduate on time. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Sid? Before we go to break?
Yeah, I kind of like the way those rules were like that you proposed. Maybe in the next collective bargaining agreement, the NBA can work something out so all parties could be happy, especially with this new NIL rule with college sports. So hopefully something can be worked out on that front. But a couple of the draft picks I wanted to point out quickly. Jalen Duran, as I said, I thought it would be one of the wild cards for the Bulls. He ended up going 13th to the Charlotte Hornets. They finally have a big man, so hopefully, and they don't have a head coach yet, as far as we know. So whoever's going to coach him, hopefully they can coach him properly. And of course, Isaiah Mobley was picked by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second round. He'll be teaming up with his brother Evan Mobley.
Yeah, that was
who was runner-up for Rookie of the Year this past season.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool story that going to Cleveland. I saw that news, and it was actually sort of nice. And I think that look, I think they've been playing together since they were in grammar school, and going through the leagues and such, and of course they ended up going to USC, went all the way to the Elite Eight a couple years ago during the pandemic tournament, as people call that. So yeah, that was sort of nice to see. And also, of course, Paulo Panchero, he ended up going number one. So to Orlando. So I think that was a nice pick for them. And I think Orlando's kind of been knocking on the door, so we'll see what happens there. So yeah, so it was actually there's a good draft all around. We'll probably get back to the draft a little bit later on, but I feel like it was a good draft all around. I think you saw some guys get drafted, some kind of surprising, and then other guys that were drafted, and so they ended up signing with two-way deals. So it was actually to be a pretty good draft all around.
Yeah, and I think so. Like we talked about on our last show on Monday, Lakeena, this wasn't a draft where you had the number one pick getting all the attention, but we said that this would be a deep draft class. Hopefully it'll show out in the next couple of years or so. And so there's a few teams that address their needs, like Detroit and Houston. I think the Bulls did get better, but the way we didn't expect it. As we always say, Lakeena, with AK and Mark Eversley, they're bad boys moving in silence. So we'll see what happens. I want to get into the Rudy Gobert side of this rumors, Lakeena, with our girl Christine Manika, who's going to join us early coming up next. And then we'll get into White Sox, Cubs, and anything else that's on Miss Manika's mind. As you're listening to the Friday edition of Second City Sports, we're live in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago. Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you. The big announcement is coming up, so stay tuned to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago to hear and see what that big announcement is. Joining us early is our closer. She's from KXRB Radio in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's our homegirl, Miss Christine, the Queen, Manika. What's up, Christine?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Oh, we're doing well now. So it's been very busy for all of us here. Well, no, yeah, we'll say don't because we told Christine our announcement like months ago, so we're not gonna do that. But let's talk.
Yeah, we're gonna put you in timeout, Christine, if you yell it out.
Right.
All right, let's talk some White Sox. I saw Sid's tweets from last night because I've been watching the draft. I was turning back and forth from the Sox, and unfortunately, they lose game one of a 4-game weekend series to the Orioles. They were shut out 4-0. I told folks, I warned everybody, I said, look, I know Baltimore's in last place in the East, AL East, but that's actually a really good team. And I don't know what else to tell y'all. I mean, it's we kind of saw some of those things. Danny Meddeck is now done for the year with a torn ACL, so now that's becoming a problem. If it's not one thing, it's another. I mean, Dean Kramer, who actually has had 2 straight scoreless starts. So, Christine, I'll start with you. What do you think? Can the White Sox sort of get back on track?
Baltimore's kind of going to make a comeback right now. This is their time that they're like, okay, we made our mistakes in the beginning. Now we're going to push. I remember when I watched them at the beginning of the season, I think when they were playing the Cubs it was the Yankees. And I just said, how are the Yankees losing to Baltimore right now? It's Baltimore. Like, they should be doing better than this, but they were just having a rough night. And now that the White Sox are kind of in a vulnerable position, that's tough, especially with Danny Mendick. He was batting a 289 average. Mm-hmm. That's one of the highest averages for the White Sox right now. And not to mention Eloy Jimenez, he's on the 60-day DL list. I don't know for what, but he's out for the foreseeable future. So I think this is the time where the White Sox need to regroup. I think it helps that Tim Anderson is back in the roster just because he does bring that energy, whether you like it or not. He knows how to get a clubhouse going and how to get everybody excited again because they're kind of in a downward. They're in a bad place right now, but I will give them credit. And Sid, you were right about the one game that they would win against Houston. So I guess that's something.
Yeah, I told you guys about that. The only reason why I said that is because the offense has been on fire for the last couple of weeks. As we all know, if you study recent White Sox history, even to a lesser extent, the 05 team, when the weather gets hot, the bats usually get hot, and that's when the Sox usually take off. But last weekend in Houston, they still could have won that Sunday night game, but Michael Kopech didn't pitch that great. He didn't pitch that badly either, but yeah, he didn't pitch that great. I want to ask you something about that Sunday night coverage. I'll ask you about that in a few minutes. But staying with the White Sox, what they did against Toronto earlier this week, it was very good. But that Wednesday game, a couple of things. Adam Hazley, whatever the hell his name is. I usually don't get emotional on this show, but that Danny Mendick injury should not have happened because when you're an outfielder, you call everybody off and you prevent something like that from happening. I know he's a rookie and all that, but his ass should be in the minor leagues today because Danny Mendick should never have been injured. If you call him off, collisions like that, you avoid collisions like that. That should have never happened in the first place. He should feel guilty about that today.
Yeah,
I'll leave that alone.
No,
I'll leave that alone. I'll leave that alone.
I hear you. Yeah, you're fired up for sure. But when it comes to something like that, do you blame the players or do you blame the coaches?
That's the players. The players.
The players.
In this situation, it's the players, because when you're an outfielder, you call somebody else, say, I got it. He should. Now, I know there wasn't that many fans there on Wednesday, but the players should say it loud enough. I got it. Once you hear that, then you should get out the way and let the player catch the ball. Is it a possibility that Danny Mendick or I forgot who else was over there that couldn't hear? Is it a possibility they may couldn't hear it? It's a possibility, but I find it hard to believe that you don't put this on Tony La Russa. No, it's actually the player's fault, and just something like that shouldn't have happened. Now, the White Sox have been having problems like that all year, especially with Luis Robert. Remember, that happened a couple of times the last couple of weeks, and then for that to happen, that came and bite them in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
And we wish Danny Mendick the best. I don't know why he's on the 10-day IL with a torn ACL. Usually with torn ACLs, you're out for the whole year, but I'll leave that alone.
I think it's a roster thing. I think they still got 40 guys on the roster right now. I think once there's some more turnover, then he'll be officially put in the I guess in the 60-day, and then he'll end up missing the rest of the season. I think that's it's sort of weird how that works with with in baseball, where you got I saw it happen with Tatis, most of last year. So it's kind of like a baseball thing where I guess the way the rosters are set up. So maybe that's why, I don't know, but
I wanted to bring up a second point, Lakeena, real quick, and this is what my anger really goes towards GM Rick Hahn. You know that he have key players hurt already. Leary Garcia, I'll get to what he did last night, or what he didn't do in a moment. But the reason why I'm really angry at that Danny Mendick injury, you have injuries at positions that you have lack of depth. And we were praising this team about the depth that they had last year, even with all the injuries. This year, now with Yohan Moncada out, I think he'll be back next week when they go on their West Coast road trip to Anaheim and San Francisco. Leary Garcia didn't play for the last few days until yesterday. And then what happened to Danny Mendick on Wednesday? The lack of depth on this roster, the lack of movement, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And Rick Hahn, I think he was on the radio today, Lakeena? Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but I'm gonna listen to it after the show, because I know our guy Jay Hood did the interview today. But I want to hear his quote unquote excuses of why the lack of roster moves and why that they're not prepared, unlike a year ago when they were prepared. You cannot assume that your team is going to be healthy for the majority of the year, and the guys that you're bringing up, they're not contributing like a year ago. It just makes no sense to me. It really doesn't.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. Yeah, it is kind of like, look, I think Rick Hahn is sort of like at that point where I'm like, hey, look, it's not my fault. I mean, I didn't want La Russa to come back. I mean, yes, I made some of these moves and such. Yes, injuries have been beyond their control. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, then you've got the Twins and the Guardians. I know they split their series this week, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting for me, because I know some people say that this is, after some of the games after the All-Star break, they're going to go into the easy part of their schedule. I'm going to air quotes here, easy part of their schedule. And yes, they got to play the Twins and the Guardians a lot in these last few months of the season. But yeah, make sure your house is in order first, where you play other teams in the American League. And like I said, Baltimore's actually, they're last place, but they're pretty decent. You've seen what they've done against some of the the top teams in their division. So don't take Baltimore lightly, and we'll see if they can bounce back this weekend. But I know people are saying, hey, look, they can right the ship. Well, we're almost in July. You can't really use that framing anymore.
Yep, July 1st is next Friday. So, like you said, Lakeena, time is starting to run out. I think this team will right the ship, but as I said last night in my tweet, recapping the game, where's the sense of urgency? We saw it in the first two games of Toronto. Okay, Wednesday we'll give you sort of a mulligan, even though Lucas Giolito, we talked about it on our last show on Monday, Lakeena, that putting COVID aside, he's been having real problems. His ERA is over 9 in his last 5 starts. It has not been looking good for the former All-Star. And then what happened last night? Here's what I want to bring up for last night. One, you had 9 hits. You cannot scratch not one run across the plate. I know the Orioles are good, as we said, offensively, Lakeena, but their pitching, they have no pitching. They made them look like bunch of Cy Youngs out there last night. And Larry Garcia, I know he's not a center fielder. He's your utility guy. I know they had to overpay him slightly in his offseason to keep him, but that play that he did last night before that 2-run home run, he booted that ball in the outfield, let the guy go to third base. That was inexcusable. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
What do you think, Christine?
I think it's a tough balance right now because you seem to have a pretty good pitching crew on hand, but then the hits aren't just coming. There's no communication outside of the mound when it comes to getting those key plays or missing those drop balls. Like, that's an important part of the game. It's more than hitting. It's all about defense too. You can't win a baseball game without defense. That goes with any sport that you play. So if there's no communication on the bench, on the field, you're not going to go anywhere. So we've been talking about for a number of years now, I think a couple of years, how pitching wasn't totally there. Now pitching is kind of there, and we're back to where we were XYZ years ago when hitting just isn't coming together. The team isn't coming together. Is it because that La Russa maybe isn't consistent with his roster and the players aren't really in a stable position? Like, they feel like they're not in a stable position. That could be it. That could be part of the morale and stuff like that. So if that's the case, then what do they have to do to change that? You know, what can Rick Hahn do? What can other coaches do to kind of change that? Or better yet, what can the players do in order to boost their own morale and to keep that energy going, whether they're on the field or not?
Yeah, let's hope the Sox can figure it out. Like I said, I mean, you're kind of getting to a point where you can't use the it's early excuse anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen, folks say, hey, I still believe in the White Sox. You got, Bovada still has as a pretty good, bet to buy, winning the division. But look, can they make moves, by the trade deadline? Sure. But I think the thing is that you're still going to be dealing with this issue. I mean, Chaz Chisholm, I know his name's being flown around from the Marlins. But again, I don't know what else you can do at this point. But hey.
Here's the thing, too. One more thing before we move on. The bullpen is shot right now because of the injury to Liam Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
I know, and also Aaron Bumman's been on the IL for the last couple of weeks as well. Joe Kelly, he looked like crap the other night during that extra innings game against Toronto. I know Renato Lopez has been getting overworked these last few days because of the injuries to that White Sox bullpen. The White Sox have to somehow find a way to pull through, because I'm with most people. Once they get over 500, there's no looking back. But right now, it's just a lot of things that are going on more than just, like you say, hitting Christina.
Yeah.
It's the defense. Actually, the defense have been looking pretty good this week. Shout out Josh Harris, who got the game-winning hit on Tuesday. He had a couple of great defensive plays in that game. And so it looks like his bat has finally started to come around. I tweeted out early this week. I know we talked about it. Lakeena, should he be the next one to go? Right now, the answer is no.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens here. You listen to Second City Sports on SportsZone Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, and our girl KXRB's Christine Manika. Us here for her bi-weekly visit for this part of the year. Well, yeah. Well, let's go to the NFL and some big news here that came across the wires on Wednesday. Rob Gronkowski announced his retirement for a second time. The four-time Super Bowl champion, and of course, was Hall of Fame All 2010s team. His 92 receiving touchdowns are the most by any player since his debut in 2010, and the third most all-time by a tight end. So I know some people are already saying that's, give him till like October and he'll be back, or whatever. We'll get to the training camp because, of course, all the teams announce their training camps in just a second. So, Christy, where does twofold. I mean, where does Gronk rank among the all-time greats, and is he a Hall of Famer, and will he unretire during this coming season?
Boy, he has been such a strong asset, not just to Tom Brady, but through the Patriots organization and now through the Tampa Bay organization. He's just an integral part on and off the field. He brings the energy. He gives it 110%. I don't think he would have as many concussions if he didn't give it 110% in everything that he did. So I would definitely rank him up there as a future Hall of Famer for sure. Will he come back? I don't know. It took him even a while to come back after the first time he retired. I think he even mentioned it in his retirement part 2 post that he said, I actually kind of enjoyed retirement when I was in it. And now it's probably getting to the point where maybe he's being told that he needs to take it easy a little bit more with all the hits, because he's a very physical player and he's a big guy. But even the toughest guys, it's like you're getting in a car accident or something every time that you get hit that hard. So maybe this is his body telling him, like, you're 33 years old, whatever, but your body's acting like it's 50 years old. So maybe you have to go back into retirement. If the Buccaneers can manage to be in the playoffs again somehow, and if Brady knows that they can, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to drag Gronk back. Heck, I wouldn't even be surprised if he tries to drag him back now, even though he said, oh, wish you the best in retirement. No, that's just a front. I know secretly Tom is maybe wanting to get his right-hand man back.
Christine knows things.
Just like I said, Tom Brady isn't really retiring. I'm like, there's no way.
But speaking of Gronkowski, you're right, Christine. The reason why he came back was two things. One, he was sick of Bill Belichick in the Patriots and the way they did Tom Brady. Number two, Tom Brady asked him to come back 2 years ago when they won their Super Bowl. That's why he came back to play. This time around, I'm with you. I wouldn't be surprised if Gronk comes back at some point in the middle of the season, especially how injuries mount up in the NFL all the time. But if he stays retired, I like the way some of these younger guys are thinking about their futures with CTE and all the other brain and trauma injuries that we are educated about today. Because, Lakeena, none of this was out when we were watching sports. And so we knew about concussions and, of course, all the other injuries, knees and feet and arms and all that other stuff. But these players today are more educated than ever. And so they're really care about their future. But as far as Gronk is concerned, wherever his endeavors are, eventually he'll probably be a TV star eventually, because he worked with Fox a couple years ago before Brady called him back. He could go into WWE if he really wanted to. So if Gronk comes back this season, his future is secure. He has options.
Well, the thing is with him, you guys remember, he hasn't touched his playing money. All the money he's been living off of is through his endorsements. So he's got cash, millions in the bank. So
yeah, just like Shaq did back in the day.
Yeah, so that's not an issue for them. Maybe he and Shaq should sort of teach a little symposium to rookies. I'm just saying.
Yes, yes.
I'm just saying, but again, we'll see what happens. Definitely to be continued in this sense. So we're gonna go switch gears a little bit and go to the sports media news. Sir Nick Fallow, the 6-time major champion, and who's worked at ABC, NBC, the Golf Channel, now CBS, has announced his retirement after 16 years. Trevor Immelman, who, if you guys remember, won the 08 Masters, he will take over his spot after the CBS finishes their golf season in August. Cristiano, you and me are kind of like the golf aficionados here. What did you think about that news?
From what I understand about that announcement, it's not totally surprising. It's been something that's been in the works for a while, and just because of COVID and everything else in between that's happened from there, I think he felt obligated to stay on. At least things kind of got, quote unquote, back to the new normal. So the way that I read his post, it was super sweet. He just wants to spend time with his wife and his 3 Weimaraner dogs. So he's had a great career off the course, on the course, and it's well deserved.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think he just got married a couple of years ago. Yeah. I know that he's a grandpa now, a couple of grandkids now. I know he wants, and also he's designing courses as well. He's been designing courses like all over the world. So I think definitely a big, this is a big loss for CBS, because they just started the new TV contract with the PGA, and with Live, and with guys going on a Live tour. Some guys, I know Brooks Koepka just joined a Live tour this week. We'll get to that in a second. But it's definitely kind of like, he's not going to the Live tour. I mean, I'm sure you'll probably still see him do the Masters. I'm sure he'll be doing the PGA Championship. So he's kind of back on his schedule. That's what he does. I know. Sid, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you're not a big golf guy, but
I was going to get to that Live controversy. Wasn't Rory McIlroy and or Brooks Koepka the latest big name to speak out about it? Now they joined the tour.
Xander was the name being thrown around with Brooks. Rory has been very vocal against.
Yes, against it. Yep.
Yeah, very vocal. Yeah. Yeah, and now they join the league. I guess we'll get into it now. We all know this. It comes down to money at the end of the day. Should the PGA be worried yet? No. If some more big names decide to jump to live, I know they're working with the Saudi Arabia. They work with Saudi Arabia. I know a whole lot of people have a problem with that, going back to politics, but this is not a political show. We're not going to get into that part of it. But we all know that money talks at the end of the day. The more big names decide to jump over there, the PGA is going to have problems. I think we're starting to see the early stages of this. It's going to be a while, but more big names decide to jump over there, it's going to be a problem. And the PGA commissioner is going to have a lot of worrying to do, a lot of sleepless nights ahead.
Well, they've already started kind of changing the PGA. They just announced that they're going to have something similar to what the Live Tour is doing when it comes to money and compensation. And this is all going to happen within the next year or so. So the reason why they did that was to kind of make players think a little bit about, if you go to this, well, you're definitely not going to come back with us then. But then again, it's also raised the questions for a couple of players saying, okay, where did all this money come from now all of a sudden? That's also raised a lot of questions too. But again, they're just doing what they can to retain their top 10 players in the PGA. Anyone outside of the top 10, I don't think they're necessarily going to worry about. Anyone that leaves that are in their top 10, that are in their radar, who are faces for the PGA, that's when I think they're going to get worried. Now, I'm not saying Phil Mickelson, Dustin, Bryson. I'm not saying that they're not the faces of the PGA. I'm saying that they're right now not playing to their standards, up to the PGA standards of what they're used to seeing Dustin and Bryson playing. Take Phil Mickelson's round in the U.S. Open. He was 11 over.
Yep.
He was 11 over. That's what happens when, A, you don't golf for 4 months, 5 months, whatever the case is. And B, when, you're just, I don't know, when you're making it all political, when you're putting your own beliefs in front of the game itself. So again, not doing any sort of, flack against Mickelson or any of those guys that are there. I'm just saying in the PGA's eyes, they're not worried yet until bigger names start to leave.
Yeah, and I think Tiger's already said that he's not going, right. So that's
when they'll worry. That's when they'll drop everything to get him back. That's when they will.
Yeah. And that's why they're doing this thing. This end of the season that's going to debut, I think, next year, where they're going to have guys have no cuts and lots of like purses, big purses, like millions of dollars. So it's definitely kind of like one of those things where you're sort of like, okay. I'm sure the PGA, this might have already been in the works, but I think they're accelerated because of what's happening right now. So we'll see what happens there. So you got any the other news, Sid, for these last few minutes of this segment with Christine?
I want to ask Christine what she think about the Bulls draft pick, Mr. Dalen Terry from last night. The University out of Arizona point guard, 6'7", he has a 7-inch wingspan.
I mean, that's bigger than my wingspan. I can't even that. But I'm trusting Billy Donovan on this one. I think this is his first official draft part of the Bulls and part of this organization. So normally I would be a little bit skeptical, but given the performance that they had this season, I'm going to trust his judgment. I'm going to trust his opinion. I'm going to trust his insight. And I think that's a pretty good pick from what I've seen on Twitter so far. The fans are happy about it. Something that's funny to me that came out of the draft was OKC. They drafted a guy named Jalen Williams, and then they drafted another guy named Jalen Williams. So my question is, how are you going to differentiate the two? Jay over here. Oh, now Jada Williams, but Williams is going to go back to Jay. Like, how are you going to do that? Like, who are the geniuses in that front office that said, let's draft both guys named Jalen Williams? They're spelled differently, but let's just draft both of them and confuse the heck out of people.
Well, Jalen Williams, the E-N, he is from Santa Clara. That Jalen Williams, Jalen. And also, Jalen Williams, a J-Y. Jaylin. He's from Arkansas. He was all SEC. So last season.
Which one is the oldest? You call the older one Junior.
I mean, I was gonna say maybe they're cousins. Maybe in some ways they're cousins.
You never know.
Maybe so. You never know. Yeah, that's sort of weird how they did that. I know some people were talking about that last night, so that was a little bit odd. But yeah, so because it's crazy. Were there any names from the draft that you're kind of like, well, guys that were undrafted, I mean, like guys like Kofi Coburn or Johnny Juzang? I mean, what do you think should happen to those guys? Should they be able to have the option to go back to college if they want to?
I think that's always an option for sure. If let's say they get drafted, but it's not entirely what they expected, or the team and the organization doesn't think that they're ready to go to that level, that they should go to the G League or something like that. I definitely think that they should be able to be allowed to go back to college to maybe improve their basketball skills, or maybe go back to get a degree for another fallback option. Do I think that they should go back to the same school? It all depends on how they left. It all depends on the type of terms that they left and the relationships that they have with their team and with their coaches too. I think something interesting that came out of the draft, I can't remember this guy's name, but his mom played for the WNBA, and he, I saw a picture of him as a baby in his mom's lap, just with a basketball, her jersey on. And now he just got drafted last night, and she was there with him. I can't remember the name.
Jaden Ivey. That's what you're thinking.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just thought that's a cool moment. That's a really cool moment. You normally see that with a lot of dads and their sons, but to have, his mom be there with him, her having experience with professional sports, I think that's awesome.
Last moment or two with our homegirl Christine Manika for KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, right here on the Friday edition on Second City Sports. We're live in the living color, right here at Sports Zone, Chicago City. Lakeena here with you. Christine, we'll kick off our number 2 as me and Lakeena will give you our preview of Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning to kick off next hour, coming up in a couple minutes. But Christine, what did you think about Game 4? Colorado got caught with their hands in the cookie jar with 6 men on the ice, but it wasn't called. They scored the game-winning goal. Now they up 3-1. Do they wrap it up tonight at home at the what's that called? The Ball Center now. It used to be known as the Pepsi Center. Now the Ball Arena.
The Ball Center.
I hope
the Ball Arena, I should say.
I hope, Tampa has been winning it too much, and they're in Florida. You don't do hockey in Florida, really. So give it to Colorado.
Should be interesting. It'll be interesting.
I'm kidding. You do hockey in Florida, but it just seems very odd.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but but yeah. So Christine, thank you so much again, as usual, for joining us. Where can people find you on the social media?
Well, they can find me at Twitter right there. Where's my hand? There's my hand right there. @Manika_KXRB.
All right. Anything exciting for you, Christine, coming up?
Gosh, I have more golf this weekend. Chris came in 4th for his tournament that started last week. So yes, good for him. Then I have more family. Thank you. I have soccer tonight that I'm announcing. They're playing against the Minnesota Thunder, the Sioux Falls City FC. It's the first home game in 2 weeks. A couple weeks ago, the second home game was postponed to this coming Tuesday due to COVID on the other opposing team. They didn't have any players, so they had to reschedule that game. So it's kind of weird to have a game now after having an unexpected 2-week break. But I'm excited for that. I have my uncle, aunt, and my little cousin Dominic driving right now, actually, to come visit me for a weekend. They were traveling to Colorado, and they decided on their way back to Chicago to do a little round trip to me. And then next week, I'll be on the road back to Chicago, and I'm going to go to that July 4th game for the White Sox. So I'm excited for that. And it's against Minnesota. So they got to do something for me when I'm out there, the White Sox. They have to pull off something.
Yeah, and that night, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Christine. That night, at least only 12,000 fans will receive that Paul Konerko bobblehead.
Gosh, if it's anything like last year, it took, I want to say, an hour, maybe 2 for parking, just because of how crazy it was. I don't know if it's going to be like that this time around, but it was ridiculous. So hopefully they figured out a way to have an easier flow of traffic.
Yeah, they've been telling people, I'm talking about the White Sox organization, they've been telling people all year long to get there early if you're driving down there. You know, yours surely doesn't drive down there. I take public transportation, i.e. Metro. So I've been doing that since they opened up that 30. It's the Rock Island line. They opened up that 35th to Lou Jones stop since 2011. Yours surely has not been paying for parking. Yay! So Metro takes care of me just fine.
Thank you so much, Christy, for joining us. And I guess we'll see you in a few weeks. We're gonna have a busy the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So if you need me, I'll be trying to sleep, maybe in between.
All right. Can you say so, Christine? Thank you.
You too, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Christine.
Bye.
All right, bye. All right, that's our buddy KXRB's Christine Manika. Thank you again, once again, to her for joining us. Of course, like she just said, she has a busy couple of weeks, so we'll definitely be checking back in with her in a few weeks. But we still got a lot to do today. Still, the Blackhawks might have a new head coach, maybe.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
And we'll see if the Avs can wrap it up tonight. And also to our more and more stuff coming up, and also our big announcement. Of all the Sports Zone Chicago. Get your devices ready, folks. You're going to be checking us out more and more with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee, the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we will see you in a bit. Technical difficulties, folks. Sorry about that. And welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And we have less than 60 minutes of this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Still ahead, we'll give you our big announcement regarding the future of Sports Zone Chicago and the future of this show as well. We cannot wait for you to get this hot information and tell everybody, spread this information like wildfire because it's going to be big, big, big.
Huge, huge, huge.
Yes.
I know it sounds corny, but
but you get the point.
you get the idea, yeah. But let's do that hockey, Sid.
Yes, let's do that hockey. Tonight is Game 5 between the Colorado Avalanche. Excuse me. Between the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The game will take place in Denver, Colorado at Ball Arena tonight at 7 o'clock Chicago time on ABC and ESPN Plus here in the United States. For those of you that are lucky enough to watch us in Canada, you can watch that game on Watcher Sportsnet/CBC starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 7 o'clock our time, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. Lakeena, the Avalanche lead that best of 7 series, 3-1. As we talked about it with Christine Manika, our girl, in our last hour, the Colorado Avalanche got caught with their pants down, but the referees somehow missed it. They had 6 men on the ice in overtime. Kadri scored that game-winning goal. The Avalanche lead that series 3-1. It was a hard-fought Game 5. Tampa Bay came out firing in that first period. I thought they controlled the majority of the game, but that third period, they ran out of gas. They tried to get it back in overtime, but Colorado said, they've been the best road team in these playoffs. They showed it once again on Wednesday.
Yeah, let me correct that thing about the too many men on the ice thing. That is not reviewable. So, and I think I don't know who that was that he was just leaving the ice. So I think for people to say that there's too many men on the ice. I mean, he was already kind of already in the box. So I don't know what they could have done. And plus, it's not reviewable either at the game or in Toronto. So I don't know what could have been done there. But Kadri came in and scored that game winner with about 7 minutes, like over 7 minutes left, or I should say 8 minutes left, and just under 8 minutes left in the overtime. But Cirelli, got it going for Tampa Bay. You thought, okay, maybe look, showing a little bit of fight here, and then McKinnon scored, tied it up, and then Hedman came in and he put it in there, and Colangelo.
Nice to hear from him on the score sheet in this series.
Yeah, that was nice of him, right? But he came on, scored that tied it up just literally like not even 3 minutes in. So, but then of course Kadri scored the game winner in overtime. And look, I mean, the Lightning did what they were supposed to do. I mean, they're kind of they had the defense. They were very aggressive, going in. Volosevsky, had 34 saves, but it just wasn't enough. And it's definitely sort of like I think the Avs are playing like they're on a mission. It's been about 25 years since they last won the Stanley Cup, so I think they want to kind of try to win it tonight. I know, yes, they're on the road, but I think they want to kind of sort of wrap it up. They're the first team to hold a 3-1 series lead in the final against the defending champions since the Devils. It's the 6th such instance all time. Each of the previous 5 teams went on to win the series, so that actually is good if you're an Avs fan. So it'll be interesting to see. And of course, they had the 9th comeback win of the playoffs on Wednesday, one shy of the all-time record that's held by the 2009 Penguins. So, there are a lot of records at stake here, and can they win it? And I think if you're the Avs, you want to try to wrap it up. Because if you remember, Hawks fans remember this, they came back from a 3-1 deficit in this Cup final against Boston. So it wasn't Boston, but I forgot who it was. But anybody who wants to
it was Detroit during that year in that playoff run.
Yeah, I remember who that was. I was definitely during that run those runs. So it has happened. So I think people need to kind of just, if you're the Avs, think you want to try to wrap it up tonight.
Yeah, going back to Game 5, we mentioned the other fact that was going to be playing a big part in this series was goaltending. Now, Darcy Kemper, who's been doing very well for the Avalanche, you could tell he was off to a shaky start. He actually started to give up some rebounds here and there, but after the opening period, he started to settle down, and you saw the Avalanche trying to work their way back into the game. Of course, they did, and with that game-time goal in the third period. But on the opposite side, Andre Valesky has been doing very well, but you could tell midway through that second period, he started to give up a lot of rebounds, and Tampa Bay just couldn't get the puck out of their own zone. You started, I don't know if it was fatigue or what, but Tampa Bay was starting to wear down, and that's how Colorado got back in the game. You notice there wasn't many penalties called, so it was very physical, but not too many penalties called, which is a nice thing to see to help set that pace, and the referees actually letting the play get that intensity going. But Valesky started to crack under the pressure a little bit, and you saw he gave up another rebound, which led to that game-winning goal in overtime. And so Tampa Bay, while they started off hot, because that's been a problem for them in this series with the first period, but they turned that around. But you start to see that Colorado was starting to get that game back, and Tampa Bay was they were the team to start to fatigue and make all the silly mistakes down the stretch. And especially when you get to this level, Lakeena, in any series in the playoffs in hockey, one little mistake can cost you the game. And Tampa Bay, if you paid attention to that third period and the start of overtime, you saw what Colorado did shouldn't surprise you.
Yeah, it was definitely I think the Avalanche kind of was very aggressive, especially late in the third period. That's how Collagiano was able to kind of score that game tie, and also too Kadri was able to score that game winner. And look, I think they got caught sleeping. I think they caught the Lightning kind of sleeping a little bit. So if you saw that overtime goal, that was a very Kane-esque. If you guys remember that from that 2010, because there was I think I think Sean McDonough, who does a great job for ABC, ESPN, and the hockey, he was confused. He's like, wait, what? Where did that puck go? So it was no one knew where the puck was, and everyone else started celebrating. So it was sort of one of the very reminiscent of that. So. But yeah, I mean, you got to give the Avs credit for being aggressive. Yes, they were able. They didn't waver once. Cirelli scored that opening goal, not even 40 seconds in, I should say, and then everything else started kind of spiraling down after that. So, I hope that maybe the Lightning the experience, but I think also too you can kind of tell that they're tired of legs too, because remember they had to go 7 against the Rangers. You gotta wonder is fatigue.
Actually 6.
Well, 6, but it was a physical 6 series. It felt like 7 games.
Yeah.
And so you wonder like Christine said a few minutes ago, is it fatigue? Is fatigue starting to kind of set in for the Lightning, because they've played very physical? So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think, like I said, the physicality of the game of this series has kind of taken its toll on Tampa Bay. And checking out the statistics from Game 5, actually, Colorado had the hits advantage by 12, 41-29. So you could definitely say that fatigue is starting to set in for the Lightning. As far as the other statistics are concerned, the shots on goal were very even, 37-39 in favor of the Lightning. The face-offs even at 35. The power play opportunities, of course, Colorado 1 for 2, and Tampa they were 0 for 2. As we mentioned before, few penalties were called, and so you like to see a nice clean game being played with very few penalties called. Here's another statistic that got me alarmed. The blocked shots, which is very key, especially at this time of year. Colorado 21, Tampa Bay 34.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those sort of things where you kind of you sort of say to yourself, okay, it's definitely sorry about that, folks. I got a little distracted there, but it's definitely you wonder, does the Lightning kind of have it in look, they're more than capable of, coming back from 3-1 down. It's happened before, but can they do it though? That's going to be the thing. We'll sort of fatigue. We're starting to see it, tired legs and all that stuff. And just the fact that you're playing a team that's on a mission. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I hope we get an extension of the series. I don't know if this is going to go 7, but I think if you're the Avs, you're going to want to try and wrap it up tonight. You don't want to give the Lightning any hope.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you before we move on to baseball, what's your one key for both teams as we preview tonight's Game 5?
I think if you're Colorado, you want to keep the aggression, keep that aggression, keep the strategy that you use in game 4. Try to kind of, try to be aggressive, try to kind of, sort of, unlike the last time, try to jump on them early and kind of, take their wool away. If you can kind of try to score early, get McKinnon, get Kadri, get others to sort of, jump in early and try to see if you can kind of score and, sort of, put the lead out early and sort of end it early. But if you're the Lightning, you want to do the same thing. If you want to lose, like Nick Paul will be able to start tonight. I know he got banged up in Game 4.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, he could be, sort of like that aggressive there. Sorelli, of course, scored that first goal, not even 45 seconds in. Hopefully, he could, keep that up. Okay, Kucherov, Stamkos, where are y'all? Come on. Let's hear from you guys, because you're one of those. You're that core. You're part of that core that's going for your third straight Stanley Cup. You need to start playing like it. So hopefully we can get that tonight.
Yeah, for Colorado use their speed, especially late in the game. You sensing that the Lightning are getting tired, as we seen as we saw in the last game, rather. And for that's Colorado. For Tampa Bay, limit the amount of mistakes. Do not turn the puck over in your own zone. And if you're Andre Valesky, the goalie, do not give up any rebounds, because you saw what happened the other night, and that's why you're down 3-1. Was he the only reason why that Tampa Bay lost that game? No, but mistakes like that can cost you a game. And so if you Tampa Bay, do not turn the puck over in your own zone, and do not give up any rebounds.
And if you're Valesky, don't give up terrible goals. And I think those are some of the things that sort of like those little gimme goals. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, Game 5 is tonight on ABC and also on ESPN Plus. So we'll see if the Avs can, finish it up at home. And if not, Sunday game will be necessary. It'll be at 7 o'clock, also on ABC on ESPN Plus as well.
Yep. So tune in tonight. Lakeena said Game 5 will be seen on ABC at 7 o'clock Chicago time. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. As we take you for the last 45 minutes or so for our last show of the week right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, let's switch over back to the diamond. Let's talk some baseball. We'll get to the national schedule for this weekend coming up. But Lakeena, I know we talked about the White Sox with Christine last hour. I want to get your thoughts on the Cubs. Heartbreaking loss yesterday. They had the chance to at least get two games out of 4 in Pittsburgh. They had a great comeback yesterday, trailing, I believe, 6-0. Tied the game late, but Michael Chavis said, got the game-winning hit, and the Pittsburgh Pirates take 3 out of 4 from the Northsiders. The one thing that I took away from this series, a couple of things that I took away from this series, Lakeena, the offense, they actually are taking advantage with men in scoring position. And number 2, Keegan Thompson. If you Jed Hoyer, you got to find a way to keep him, because he's the only pitcher prospect that I see that you have on this roster right now.
Yeah, that Wednesday's game was really impressive on his part. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, 8-7, the final for that one. That was a tough one for, I'm sure I saw a lot of Cubs fans tweet that was probably one of the, I don't want to say that's the worst loss of the season, but that might be. And Chavis sort of, ended things. He tied the game also to the silver run in the 8th. And then, of course, had that game-winning go-ahead single in 10. So, I mean, it's like I don't know. I mean, look, you're starting to show a little bit of signs. Like you said, Keegan Thompson's probably like the best pitcher you have right now if you're the Cubs. Not even Kyle Hendricks starting to kind of show his age a little bit.
Yeah.
But hopefully, usually he does better when it warms up. So hopefully we're seeing that. But yeah, in this case, I mean, you lose 3 out of 4 to the Pirates. I don't know what else more you can say about that. But yeah, I mean, sort of try and look at the positives, I guess, if you're a Cubs fan. I know that's hard to do, but it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, it's tough to be the Cubs fan right now, and I know that some fans are not very happy with the direction of the roster and such. It might be a couple of years before this team is in serious contention, but look, they played St. Louis. They've actually played St. Louis pretty tough in St. Louis this weekend, so that could help a little bit. I mean, I know St. Louis had a little struggle a little bit in this week. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, I mean, what do you think before we get to like all of baseball?
For the Cubs, like you said, they were competitive against St. Louis a few weeks ago with that 5-game series here in Chicago at Wrigley. They had a chance to win all those games except for that. I think that second game of that series, but they could have taken 4 out of 5. But they, like you mentioned, especially recent history, they've done well against the Cardinals. Too bad Keegan Thompson is not pitching in this series, but with that withstanding, I expect the Cubs to compete this weekend. Like you said, St. Louis, we'll get to them in just a second, but they came off of a competitive series against Milwaukee as they battled for the NL Central Division lead. And the Cubs, they're playing with house money right now. Not too many people expect them to do well, especially now with this recent ugly stretch that they've been under for the last few weeks. You still have Wilson Contreras, Frank Schwindel, Patrick Wisdom had a couple of big hits in that series against Pittsburgh. So the bats are heating up for the Cubs. It wouldn't shock me if they won one game down there in St. Louis. It wouldn't shock me.
No, it wouldn't. So we'll see what happens there. Now let's go to the rest of baseball. What impressed you so far this week?
Last night's game, for those of you listening back on our replay at War on Anchor, I'm talking about the first game from Thursday night's 4-game weekend series between the Houston Astros and the New York Yankees. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, Lakeena, but Jose Altuve got hit by Taillon in the first inning. Thank goodness nothing more came into it. It was an accident. Of course, Jose Altuve has been marked as one of those cheating guys from the Astros from that 2017 World Championship team. Of course, he wears the elbow guard with his left elbow, so you could tell he still felt that pitch last night. But nothing came about it. There was no beam balls or anything like that, so thank goodness for that. But the Houston Astros jumped out to an early 3-0 first inning lead. The Yankees tied it up with Giancarlo Stanton's 3-run home run. Houston scored 3 more to make it 6-3. It lasted all the way to the 9th inning. Aaron Judge, who's your front runner for AL MVP, got the game-winning hit last night. So it was a very exciting game to watch last night.
And they settled their arbitration too. So I think that I'm sure he's playing a little bit more now.
Yeah.
He joined Babe Ruth in 1920 as the only Yankees with six multi-hit games within the team's first 70 games of the season. So they actually are the first team to get to 52. So he did that earlier this week. So yeah, so it's definitely if the Yankees are definitely the team to beat right now. They won 2 out of 3 against the Rays. Of course, they continue their series against the Astros tonight. So that we'll see what happens. That's going to get a lot of the national treatment. But I feel like the Yankees are. I don't want to say they're the team to beat because it's still I don't want to say it's still early, but you're kind of rolling about not even halfway through the season yet. But they got the best record in the league right now, and we'll see. I mean, I'm sure they're going to shore up their middle relief and their bullpen because that's what they really need. Their hitting's fine. They just need to kind of beef up their pitching staff, and they can probably go far. That's probably been the sort of the hindrance the last couple of years for the Yankees. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. We have a comment. Yeah, we have a comment real quick from my guy Vernon Fairley. I think today's his birthday. Happy birthday, Vernon.
Happy birthday, Vernon.
Yeah, so he was up on the Sean and Maya's comments this morning. He says, I hope the Sox play better for tomorrow, at least since I'll be at the game. You're surely going to be there too, Vernon. So, and plus tomorrow, as far as promotion is concerned, is the Eloy Jimenez watching Luis Robert, the bobblehead. So, if you're the first 20,000 fans in attendance, you'll get that bobblehead. So hopefully, Vernon, you'll be there early enough to get that bobblehead because when it comes to promotions and bobbleheads, Sox fans usually crowd that place early. So as the White Sox have told you guys all year long, get there early to avoid the major traffic. So thank you, Vernon, for checking in with us here on Second City Sports. You can do so as well at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. And chime in with your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get the bump on the screen for you. But back to the national baseball scene, Lakeena, we mentioned St. Louis earlier. They took 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee this week. Milwaukee prevented the sweep yesterday with a 6-4 victory over the St. Louis Cardinals. Milwaukee has been struggling as of late. To the AL Central, where it's concerning for you White Sox fans, I watched all 3 games of this series. The Cleveland Guardians, their bats are just on fire. They failed to sweep the Minnesota Twins yesterday. Minnesota came out of there with a 1-0 victory. But the Cleveland Guardians, their bats, as I mentioned, they are coming to life right now. Their pitching has struggled a bit, but the offense is picking it up. Josh Naylor, remember that name, Sox fans, what he did here back in May? He's really starting to pick it up right now. Jose Ramirez, we talked about, he was injured early in the season. He's back now. He's starting to pick it up. That Cleveland Guardians team, they're the best team in the AL Central right now, without a question.
Yeah, their hitting has been really lights out lately. They're kind of where the White Sox. I'm sure White Sox fans wish they were right now. Their hitting has been like crazy. 11-10 against the Twins a couple of days ago. That was a crazy game. If you guys saw,
yes, it
that
was.
Game. That was a crazy game. They play the Red Sox. The Red Sox have been playing pretty well too lately, so that should be an interesting series. And nonetheless, gotta give a little bit of a shout out to. I know this team's been struggling lately, but Shohei Ohtani had an 8 RBI game and a 13 strikeout game in his career. He did that in the last 2 nights, so he did it earlier this week. So could definitely perhaps maybe be challenge Judge for AL MVP. We'll see. That's interesting. Also, too, the Rangers have been playing pretty well, too. They've won a couple in a row. The Mariners have won 3 in a row as well. They're starting to kind of get into it a little bit. Yeah, I know it was against the A's, but okay, whatever. But, look, that they had to do it again somehow. But that's interesting. As for the East, the Mets, they're kind of starting to sort of, fall off a little bit. They got swept by the Astros. Yeah, so, I think they lost again so it's just a tough goal for the Mets right now. I know the Braves are starting to trying to start another streak again. They've won a couple in a row. The Phillies have been kind of up and down since they've changed managers, but they're still kind of like right there within distance. When you talked about the Central out west, the Dodgers are starting to kind of find their groove back. I know some Dodgers fans were already kind of freaking out. They swept the Reds, but again, if they had lost one of those games, y'all would have been freaking out. So, they got swept. They swept the Reds. So, y'all can relax now. They have a big series coming up against the Braves. Also, too, the Padres, they've been coming up and down, too. The good news is that Machado injury doesn't look serious. So they win, they lose, but again, they lose their opener against the Phillies. So we'll see what happens there this weekend. They did sweep the Diamondbacks. So look, you do what you're supposed to do. So some interesting things happening in baseball this week.
Yes, so there's your recap for this week in baseball, but we'll give you the schedule tonight before I know we're up against the Lakeena, so we'll give you the schedule for this weekend series. Of course, Baltimore is here in Chicago to face the White Sox tonight at 7:10 p.m. Of course, the next 2 games for the White Sox against Baltimore are both Saturday and Sundays, are both 1:10 p.m. starts, but tonight's game Friday is at 7:10 on the south side. Speaking of the New York Mets, they'll face the Florida Marlins at 5:40 tonight. Of course, that'll be your Sunday morning game on Peacock at 11 o'clock. So for those of you in Florida expecting to get some national love, you'll get it this week facing the New York Mets. So, of course, it'll be because of the New York Mets. That's why they're getting all the national love. So that's your Sunday MLB leadoff game of the week for the Mets and Marlins. Of course, the Astros and Yankees, game 2 of that series will resume tonight from Yankee Stadium. Yeah, Boston at Cleveland, as Lakeena mentioned earlier. Pittsburgh at Tampa Bay for a rare interleague series. We have the Dodgers and the Braves from Atlanta. Washington Nationals at the Texas Rangers, another interleague series. Another interleague series, Colorado and Minnesota to take on the Twins. You have Oakland at Kansas City. Another interleague series of Toronto and Milwaukee to take on the Brewers, because the Cubs and the Cardinals start that big 3-game weekend series down there in Missouri. That's tonight's game, the first game on Apple TV. So all you Cubs fans are looking for tonight's game. It's not on Marquee, and it's on Apple TV Plus. And of course, you have Seattle at Anaheim, Detroit at Arizona. Tonight's game of that first game of that series will be the second game of the Apple TV doubleheader at 8:40 p.m. We have Philadelphia at San Diego, and we have Cincinnati at San Francisco. Your Fox Saturday baseball game of the week this Saturday at 6:15 Chicago time will be the Dodgers at the Braves or Colorado at Minnesota. So as we say in the business, check your local listings for game and time in your area.
And the Dodgers and the Braves will be the Sunday night baseball game of the week on ESPN. Also, too, Cincy and San Francisco. That's the early game on ESPN Plus as well at 3:05 on Sunday. Of course, as I mentioned, the Mets and the Marlins will be on Peacock. That's the Sunday Peacock game of the week. So check your local listings and your streaming services, wherever for channel, network, and time and all that good stuff. So that's your baseball talk for this week, and some great series coming up, so it should be a lot of fun. We got to take a really quick break again, but don't worry, folks. We're finally going to get to our big announcement, and the Blackhawks also might be making a big announcement, too. You might like their new head coach, so it's a couple of big announcements coming up next, along with Sydney Brown, which is he. I'm Lakeena McGee. Oh, look, that's me. This Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you in a bit with some big news.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live in the living color, the Friday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than a half hour left of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. And coming up, we'll have our big announcement. But if you have any questions or comments for us during our less than a half hour of this exciting program, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, a few items to get out the way before our big announcement. You mentioned the Chicago Blackhawks that hired a new head coach, a former defenseman named Luke Richardson. He played in the NHL for over 2 decades, over 1,400 games. I know he was last coaching with the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, with their realignment coming off of COVID, they reached the Stanley Cup final last year against Tampa Bay, which they lost in a hard-fought 6-game series. Of course, Montreal's been on hard times this year, both on and off the ice. He's described as a high-character, no-nonsense guy. We all thought jokingly, Lakeena, that Derek King will get this job, but they turned to Mr. Richardson. Will he be the head coach when this team finally gets good? That remains to be seen. My gut tells me no, but the Blackhawks, as we told you guys, are turning the page both on and off the ice.
Yeah, shout out to Frank Saravelli, who first reported this news. Who's a hockey insider for Daily Faceoff, which is a hockey insider magazine. Blog. I'll say. Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, like I said, he played 1,400 games in the NHL. He has spent 8 years as an assistant in the NHL. He spent 4 years as an AHL head coach. So this is a guy who has the credentials. And look, he played defense. He's a former defenseman, so he knows how tough and grit. So again, we'll see what happens. But look, okay, so it looks like now they're going to have a coach. But okay, what's going to happen with the roster? I mean, you may have to get rid of Kane, Taves. We've been talking about the last few weeks. I mean, the Seth Jones contract looks really bad right now. So
yeah,
now we're starting to kind of see like, okay, what's gonna happen here? It's gonna be a lot of turnover. Is it gonna be a total rebuild? We really don't know what the Hawks are gonna be at this point. So this is great news because it seems like you got somebody there who has experience and who can kind of bring the best out of some of these younger players. But at the same time, though, okay, how about DeBrincat? How's he going to be and all that stuff? So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting, though, to see what the next chapter is for the Hawks and what they decide to do.
I know that Mr. Richardson is 53 years old, but he's not that far removed from being the head coach. He can still relate to the players. And let's be honest, Lakeena, from an outsider's perspective, this is a youth movement for the Blackhawks. Now, GM Cal Davis, as we said, has a lot of work to do, but it's going to take a while for them to be at cup contending level, perhaps at a playoff contending level as well. So you need a coach that could communicate with these young guys to get them going in the right direction. Let's call it what it is, Lakeena. We've seen it with these rebuilds here in this city of Chicago with the White Sox, with Ricky Renteria. This is a learning on the job for these young guys. We saw it with the Cubs before they hired Joe Mann. Ricky Renteria was a part of that. They were learning on the job. So in the Bulls was just a total mess. We'll get into that. But this is going to be a learning on the job experience, not just for him, but mostly for those players. You mentioned, Lakeena, what are they going to do with some of the veterans that they have left on those huge contract deals. I think it's your best interest to keep DeBrincat. If King wants to stay, that's fine with me. He has that right, but GM Kyle Davis has the right to trade him as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think the odd man out right now is Jonathan Taves. Nothing personal against him, but his time has come to an end. You saw that with the other brands, with Hossa, even though he had a condition that he couldn't play anymore. But we saw with him, Seabrook, Duncan Keith. It's going to happen to Taves sooner or later.
Well, and also it'll be interesting what they do. I mean, does Kyle Davidson try to trade Taves? I mean, trade Taves and try to get something from him. Maybe get a high pick, or maybe get kind of up and coming young player. You can kind of be a part of this core. So again, look, Kyle Davidson's got a lot of decisions to make, and it won't be easy decisions. I mean, there might be some decisions he makes that may disappoint some fans, but you may have to sort of, kind of get back out to try to figure out what happens there. So I'm excited. I'm a little kind of like cautiously optimistic. I'll say that, as far as what the Hawks are going to do and what sort of the next steps are going to be.
Yep, I'm with you on that same boat, but it's going to be a long road ahead, so we'll see what happens with that. Lakeena, I don't have it in front of me, but did you check out the Bears training camp schedule? It was released earlier this week.
Yeah, I do. I got to get it up here for a second. I just had it on here, and of course I lost it. But all the NFL teams announced their training camp dates, and it's sort of interesting because, of course, you have it now over at Hallis Hall. Now they start on July 23rd. So
I miss Bourbonnais.
I know, good times. I know the people in Bourbonnais miss having camp there as well. But I guess, but I guess they figured that look, Lake Forest, they're already there. It's easy to get to. It's the PNC Center at Hallis Hall, as they call it. Oh, la di da. But they of course got to get the corporate thing into it. But yeah, I mean that's what they're gonna do. July 23rd is going to be the thing. We'll try to get some folks on before then. Now we got a little bit of time. Now that we know when training camp is gonna be, Veterans, of course, report on the 26th. So amongst some of the other teams are going to be going in that day. You get Cincy, some of the early training campers. You've got Atlanta and Baltimore. I know they've had a tough last few days. Of course, the Raiders also on the July 18th. The rookie days, I should say. So like some of these teams, you got some teams are going to be coming in late. They got Pittsburgh and Philly and the 49ers. They don't have to come until the 26th. Commanders, the same thing. So yeah, so some of the various dates and stuff, they're right there on the NFL website if you want to find out when your favorite team is going to be tuning in for training camp and such. But this will be interesting though because you got a new regime taking over, and I mean honestly, I don't I'm not really expecting much. I'll say that.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll have more time to break down the Bears roster once we get closer to training camp. And of course, the preseason will tell part of the story once those games start in August. Looking, I think they're going to have, if I'm not mistaken, 5 open practices, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong for the Bears. Of course, they're going to limit the amount of fans in there because it's a smaller place. They don't want everybody up there at Hallis Hall. So if you're the fan, I don't know how much the admission is going to be. I don't think the Bears released that information just yet. But if you're a Bears fan, you had to travel all the way up to Lake Forest near the Wisconsin state border to see the Bears practice this year. So, of course, we all know the political stuff behind the scenes. They're trying to make that deal look good for Arlington Heights. When they're going to move there, who knows when, but all this is coming to play right now. But if you're a Bears fan for the first time, believe in 3 years, it won't be in Bourbonnais anymore. You have to go to Lake Forest, Illinois to see your Bears practice.
And I'm thinking, let's see here. I think I'm looking at the practice. I think the first open practice will be on the 28th, which is when the veterans come in for camp.
Okay.
And some of the other ones you got a couple other practices as well. They're going to be open. Yeah. So I don't I know they're going to have a family day, I believe, like in the first week of August. So like the second week of August. So, this is, so you can, if you want, you could go check out, this roster and such, because I know there's been something that came up during the OTAs and such, people talk about Justin Fields and such. So I'm just like, okay, it's sort of weird how all of this is sort of, people all have their opinions already. They haven't even started playing yet. So I don't know. Go figure.
Yeah, go figure on that. You're listening to Second City Sports. We're live and in living color on the Friday edition right here in Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. We have the big announcement coming up, but we still have a couple more items to take care of. Lakeena, let's stay in the world of football. You mentioned the Baltimore Ravens. They had a couple of deaths within that organization this week. One of them was a former Super Bowl champion from the 2000 team. His name was Tony Siragusa. He passed away at the age of 55 earlier this week. He was a former commentator for Fox Sports for the NFL or Fox. He worked as a third guy with Kenny Albert and Darren Moose Johnson for those many years from the late 2000s through the 2010s. I know he was let go following the 2016 season, I believe. I know he started to delve into other businesses the last years of his life. But that was shocking news that I've heard earlier this week. And we would like to send our condolences out to the Siragusa family and to the other family that the other Baltimore Ravens player who passed away earlier this week as well.
Yeah, it's tough, especially because that's who we grew up with Siragusa. Of course, he was a part of that that 2000 team that won the Super Bowl. And also too, like I said, I actually liked him during the broadcast. He kind of like added a little bit of his own like flavor to it. He was on the sidelines and such.
Yeah,
so
with a big screen TV down the end zone.
Yeah, which kind of like threw a lot of folks, all of us off. But yeah, just a sad news there. A very sudden tragedy. And also too, Jalen Ferguson, that's the linebacker you're talking about from the Ravens, who died a few hours earlier. Was just found, unresponsive, and it was just crazy. And he was actually one of those guys that was sort of kind of find his groove a little bit for the Ravens. So, a tough couple of days. Last few days has been for that Ravens organization. I'm sure they're going to do some stuff to in tribute to both of them during the season. They're pretty classy in doing that. So, but our thoughts and prayers go out to both the Ferguson family and also Goose's family too.
Yes, so rest in power to both of them. Lakeena, one more item before we get to our big announcement. Arch Manning, he's not going to Alabama. He's not going to Georgia. Tell the people where he's going for those of you that have missed the big news from earlier this week.
Yeah, this came out yesterday, and of course, Arch Manning, for those of you who don't know, he is the nephew of Peyton and Eli and the grandson of Archie. That's Cooper. Arch is Cooper, like the oldest, and that the mother the three sons. I got to make sure I say that first. Who was Coop's oldest son. He was very highly touted, Mississippi school. I'm sure you guys probably saw some of his games on ESPN Plus and stuff. I'm sure I think they were streaming a couple of his games. I think last year they actually showed a couple of his games, but he actually has decided to go to, wait for it, hook 'em, Texas. He's going to Texas. Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Steve Sarkisian and his staff there. And he didn't go to Ole Miss like his uncle Eli did. He didn't go to Tennessee like his other uncle Peyton did. He didn't go to Ole Miss like his dad and his granddad Archie did. He's actually decided to go to Texas. Of course, Texas will be joining the SEC next year. Really, that's a whole nother conversation. But he's kind of like, Texas is and I said it on Twitter yesterday when the news came down. Cue the Texas is back tweets.
Here's the thing about that move, Lakeena. As you mentioned, Texas, along with Oklahoma, will go to the SEC after next season, and maybe Arch Manning wanted to start his own legacy instead of playing in the shadow of his uncle Peyton Manning, which he was a great quarterback at Tennessee in the mid 90s. But Texas is going to be competitive. They had to step their game up with Alabama and Georgia and Missouri all being under the SEC umbrella now. And I heard Sean Davis. We got to get him back on the show. He does the Lucky Lefty podcast for Notre Dame for SI. He was on Sean and Maya in the morning earlier today. He was talking about how the football culture is just like the basketball culture. The guys that they train with and play with, they stay in contact with each other throughout the year. It's almost like their version of AAU ball. And with these various camps that these players are attending, it's going to be interesting to see who Arch Manning brings along with him to help bring Texas back to relevance. Because as you well know, they were 5-7 last year. Of course, they were a big powerhouse in recent memory with Ricky Williams and Vince Young, of course, and they, after Mac Brown left, they took a big nosedive for a while. So this will kind of get the program back to national prominence, but they actually got to start winning games, get talent in there, and then win games second.
Well, here's another talented player, and get ready to feel old, Sid. Edgerrin James who, of course, Peyton's former teammate from Indianapolis. His son, Eden, will be joining Arch over at Texas. So we may see another Manning James combination for a new generation. He's going to be going there next year as well, Eden is. So, or Eden, I think that's how they say it. Yeah, Eden's probably how they say it, of course. Ed and Edgerrin, you get that. But we might be seeing another Manning James combo there as well. Jeez, I feel old. Good grief.
Same here. I can't lie on that one.
Oh yeah, and of course, keep with the theme. Marvin Harrison Jr. He's now I forgot where I gotta look up where he's at Ohio State now. I think it just came to me. So feeling very old here, folks.
Yep. Oh, how the years go by.
And speaking of Ohio State, they've now been able to trademark these, so now they can be known as the Ohio State. Oh, goody. Oh, goody. That's a Jesus Christ. All right. So, any other nuggets before we get to the big announcement?
Let's get to the big announcement. We've been teasing people all show long. We've been teasing y'all for the last 24, 48 hours. Lakeena, I'm very excited to hear what you're going to say about this news. It's not just going to help us; it's going to help the way that Sports Zone Chicago is going to move into the future, and how it's going to help everybody associated with Sports Zone Chicago. And before I get myself in trouble, you tell the lovely people what's happening with us in Sports Zone Chicago.
All right. I wish we had I wish we had like a music here, like a drum roll, because this is actually more effective when we do this. But,
I don't know if you can hear that, but
yeah, I can hear very, very faintly. But we're now going to be on. Hold on. There you go. For those of you who are listening to this right now on our YouTube and our Facebook page, Sports Zone Chicago is now on the Roku app. It's not on the Roku channel. Roku. All right. So if you have access to to Roku on your whatever device you got, whether your laptop, tablet, your smartphone, you can just type in at the Roku app, look up Sports Zone Chicago. It comes up right there. You can listen to us. You can listen to What's Up, Cuz, of course, Sean and Maya, and we're gonna have some other shows coming up as well down the pike in the coming weeks and months ahead. So so now you'll be able to access it wherever you go, whether if you're out and about, or if you're kind of waiting on the train or the bus or whatever, or if you're in a ride share or in the plane, if you want to get the latest sports news. Let me do that one more time, because you guys are not going to see this. Unfortunately, you guys are who are listening to this on Anchor and some of the various sites. You're not going to be able to see this, but of course, you got Sports Zone Chicago now on Roku as well. You can still be able to watch us, listen to us, and such. But now you can have access to us also on the Roku app.
Yes, this is great for us, Lakeena. And there we go. For those of you watching on YouTube right now, Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku. Of course, Roku can be seen by 80 million people throughout the United States. So we're going to get a whole lot more people that's going to watch us, Lakeena. We're going to get some new audience members and listeners and viewers as well. So check us out on Roku. If you have Roku TV, Roku device, just search for sports, and Sports on Chicago will be the first item that pops up. So we're the only Chicago sports app, Chicago sports station that's on Roku. Not 670, not ESPN 1000. They do not have access to Roku, but we at Sports Zone Chicago, we have it now. So we'll be seen and heard throughout millions of people throughout the country and throughout the world. So Chicago sports is on a national level and on the worldwide level now with social media and the internet. Lakeena, I can't be any more excited than I am right now. Let's give our thanks to Sean Sierra and Maya Kai. They've been working their tails off behind the scenes. I heard Sean Sierra's commentary about this a few hours ago. There we go, Liam Hendricks yelling for his approval.
He loves it too.
Yeah,
he likes it too. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So the big thanks to Sean Sierra and Maya Kai for working behind the scenes. It's not easy. People think, especially now with the age of the internet, that you could just make a couple things, create a couple things, they'll pop up tomorrow. This is not how it works. We all know in business, Lakeena, nothing's official until it's official with every I dotted and every T crossed. And this is another step up for us at Second City Sports, and for us at Sports Zone Chicago. We'll be seen by a whole lot more people.
And just in time for us, we're kind of getting to like the dead, not necessarily dead period, but we're kind of getting like to slow down in the sports. With everything going on. So we're going to just in time for football season, both NFL and college, and some of the other stuff as baseball's finishing up as well. So this is actually perfect timing for this to sort of launch and such. So once again, one more time for those of you who just in case you guys, were set out for a little bit and you didn't hear or see the announcements. There we go. Sports Zone Chicago is now also on the Roku app.
Roku.
All right. So again, so for those of you who have access to, your tablet, your laptop, your smartphone, wherever, whatever device you have, you can get it. You can, download it from anywhere. It's free. I believe it's free, right? Roku is.
Yes.
I believe. Yeah. So Roku is free, so you don't have to worry about having to pay a fee like some of the other streaming services. You can get it for free. You just download it, and it's all right there in front of you. Sports Zone Chicago. You got access to all our shows and such, all our picks that were not very good. We won't, you can quote us on that. And so, yeah, this is actually an exciting venture for us. I know, like Sean, like Sid says, Sean and Meyer have been working behind the scenes to try to get this happening and such. I know Sean sort of started kind of spearheading all this, and like he said, this is the first. I think we're the first sports app to be featured on Roku. So that's pretty big. That's pretty big. So all of you 80 million, tell if you're not a sports fan, look, tell your friends, tell everybody, tell your family members and such. You can access it. It's all right there in their fingertips.
Yes, and also I'll reiterate what Sean said on his show, Sean and Maya earlier today, that what's the phrase that we say all the time, Lakeena? People want and need options, and this is just another option, another audience that we're going to reach with Roku. As we said, Roku has 80 million viewers with this device, and so you can access various shows and other special programming. And now you can access Sports Zone Chicago. Still download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, including Roku now. So it's just another avenue for people to access our content. You could watch it live, or you could watch it on delay and catch it later. So this is going to give an opportunity for those that don't know anything about us, not just as a show, but as a network, to access all of our programming. As you mentioned, there's a whole lot more programming that's on the way coming up in the not too so distant future. And it's just what we've been doing on this platform, again, as far as our show, Second City Sports, has been tremendous. And so we're not going anywhere, obviously. None of the shows are going anywhere, obviously, but we're still going to give you that great fire content, and we're just going to reach a whole lot more people. Now, regarding the local sports radio landscape with 670 The Score and 1000, of course, the corporate media are going to do what they have to do. We're doing what we have to do to reach a whole lot more people. Do we want the numbers? Of course, and we're going to get it, but we just want to make an impact on Chicago sports, not just locally, but nationally, but worldwide as well. And this just gives us another avenue to do it.
Yeah, so one more time for the people in the back that did not see this, you guys can see it. I can scroll at the bottom of the screen. Sports Zone Chicago now on Roku. Roku. Yeah, so you can now have access. Of course, look, we'll still be coming on, every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. But you can now if you like our show so much, or you like the episode so much, you can go back and watch on the Roku app. It's all right there. Just type in Sports Zone Chicago and get on the Roku channel, the Roku app, and it's all right there in front of you. Like I said, you can get it from your laptop, your smartphone, your tablet, whatever device you have. You can watch it, listen to us anywhere. You can watch the other shows as well. Like I said, Sean and Maya, What's Up, Cuz? It's all right there. We're gonna have more shows coming up too once we get everything really going. So, but yeah, this is sort of like a nice sort of a little taste of what you're gonna see on the Roku app.
Yes, and also Sports 101 with Jamal Harp and the Smoke Fellas, and of course we'll have some football shows that get. I really like them. We gotta get one of them on this program down the road. But we also will have some football related shows coming up very soon. And you know what we do here at Second City Sports. So not too many things are changing here as far as the content is concerned. You just get another avenue that you can watch us now. So like Lakeena said, all the devices that you watch your content from, including your television at home, you could just get that Roku TV and you can access right there. Go into sports, and then Sports Zone Chicago will pop up right there. So Lakeena, this is just a big step for us, and I expect us to go higher, not just as a show, but as a network as well.
This will open up a whole new avenue for us.
The whole new world.
Don't like I said, we're not gonna play
singing, so that's
royalties. No, we're not gonna play royalties, Sid. Don't you dare.
I didn't sing the whole song.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 5 seconds, Sid. 5 seconds.
Sean and Mike can still keep that $5 in the collection plate.
Yes, they can. Yeah. So it's gonna be like I said, this will open a whole new avenue for us. We've had big guests here already. We've of course on all the shows, but this will definitely make us, legit now, it feels like. So now we're on an app that's, and that's access to millions and millions and millions of folks, millions of households and millions of folks. So if you guys have, even if you don't have sports fans in your life, you can spread the word to someone who is a sports fan, and you can, have to tell, hey, look, check Lakeena and Sid, Sean and Maya, What's Up, Cuz, the Smoke Fellas, all the other shows. And of course, like I said, we're going to have more shows coming up on the app as well. So it's all right there for you. So you guys can now check us out in even more places now, whether you guys like it or not.
Yep. So check us out on Roku TV. So that's the big announcement. So what a way to end the show, Lakeena. Any final thoughts before we close up? Because I know we're running up against it.
Yes, we are. But again, enjoy all the great sports that are coming up. Also, you got the College World Series final, best of 3. It will be Oklahoma and Mississippi. Ole Miss. They start their best of 3 series tomorrow. You can catch that on ESPN at 6 o'clock, the first game of that. And I think all the games are coming on at 6. Well, actually, Sunday's game is going to come on at 2 o'clock. So tomorrow's game is at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. And Sunday's game is at 2 p.m. on ESPN. So Oklahoma and Ole Miss, I believe they're both going for their 3rd national title in baseball. I got to look that up real quick. But yeah, I know they both won before. So this is this is a great event. It's been a great tournament so far, and I know Mississippi had to win like 3 times, and they had to beat Arkansas twice because they lost to Arkansas, and now they had to come back and beat them on yesterday, which ended up being a great game. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out tonight as well. Of course, we got baseball. You got the Travelers Championship going on where Rory McIlroy is in the lead. We talked about him earlier, of course. Too, he's not going to the Live Tour, obviously. So yeah, what are you looking forward to this week, Sid?
Of course, I'll be at the White Sox game tomorrow and Sunday. Of course, I'm going to get my bobblehead tomorrow. I'm going to get there early. No, you cannot have it. And no, for those of you fools, I know we'll probably talk about this more on Monday, Lakeena, but for those of you fools who are trying to borrow some from some fans so you can sell it on eBay, I got mixed opinions about that. You cannot have mine, so leave me alone.
Could be a lot of fighting for that.
Yeah, so but with that being said,
bobblehead.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, I'll be at the White Sox games tomorrow and Sunday. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a 3-game winning streak when we get back here on Monday. Of course, the Cubs are down there in St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. The Bulls, I'm sure we'll find some more news about them on our next show after this draft last night.
Yeah, so with that said, you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Cindy Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you download our podcast at War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And most importantly, we are now on Roku. So wherever you on your television, Roku TV, like Keena said, your laptop, phone, any other device, you can access Roku TV. Make sure you search for sports. Search for Sports Zone Chicago. We're right there for you, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends, especially tell all your friends about the Roku news. If you have a smart television, you can access that as well. It's right there. It's free. So you can access us however you want. I forgot about the smart television because actually I have one. I'm looking at mine right now. So yeah, you can access it right there if you have a smart television. It's right there on the app. Go to the App Store. Yes. Roku TV is right there.
Yes, it is. Make sure you catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday, live in 11 color from noon to 2 p.m. right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as you young folks will say. Catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday, live from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago and on Roku TV.
Roku TV. like the old Cookie Crisp commercials. Cookie Crisp, all right.
Yes. Well, you make me feel old with that one.
I know. We're about the same age, so yeah. Once again, hey, Leah, what is that? There you go. Sports Zone Chicago now on Roku. So yeah, so make sure you guys please check us out. We appreciate your support. For Sid, I'm Lakeena. This is Manika Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. If you're not going to get vaccinated, wash your hands and be good to each other. I know there's some stuff that came down the pipe this week. Go vote if you want real change. That's all I'm going to say. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
Till Monday, roll cool! Holla!